So he was definitely doing a lot of research that concerned us.
But to his parents, Haris Ahmed was just a sensitive young man.
After the US invaded Afghanistan and after they invaded the Iraq, lots of pictures came on the website of the oppression, of the killings, of the sufferings. My wife told me later on that he used to go to his room and cry because he saw so much suffering, killing going on in those countries, and he could not do anything.
Didn't that tempt you to keep an eye on him, given that he was already interested in and moved by these kind of images?
No, because I thought this is just a young person being a little bit more emotional, more attached to the Muslims, and little bit more religious minded.
Obsessed with avenging the suffering of fellow Muslims, he grew closer to others in the network and daydreamed about striking back. One fantasy was to unleash the smallpox virus and kill thousands with a car bomb attack on Atlanta's Center for Disease Control. Remarkably, as Ahmed and his online contacts were drawing ever closer to becoming real terrorists, they'd still never even met each other. How would you describe the role of the internet in all this?
Absolutely incredible, almost scary, in a number of different arenas. Number one, what is accessible now on the internet, how easy it is to learn how to make an explosive device. Number two, these jihadi forums, how easy it is to find them and find people who are willing to radicalize or help radicalize individuals. And then number three, how it flattens out the world, how easy it is to talk to somebody in Bosnia who has explosives, or in Bangladesh who's getting ready to go commit jihad. It simplifies their ability to make those contacts.
Ahmed is part of an internet-savvy generation for whom computer technology and virtual networks are second nature. Now Ahmed was about to take the next step, turning his internet-fueled fantasies into action. In March 2005, Haris Ahmed travelled to Canada to meet Abid Khan and other chatroom jihadis. Up to this stage, their contact with other cells had mainly been a virtual contact via emails, mobile phones and chat rooms. But now for the first time, here in Toronto, the virtual network became real. Ahmed had boasted online that his greatest wish was to fight violent jihad. In Canada, he would take another step to making that wish come true. What do you think was the point of the meeting in Toronto?
We think there were 2 points. Number one, they were getting together to continue to plot a pretty large terrorist event, whether it be in the US, whether it be in Europe, whether it be in Canada. We know there was some operational planning going on. Number two, we think that Harris wanted to obtain training and get into a camp.
The camp Ahmed wanted to get into was in Pakistan. He discussed his plan with Abid Khan and the others. They told him that first he needed to establish his jihadi credentials. A month later, he found a way of doing so. He told his family he wanted to take a trip to Washington, D.C. But this was to be no ordinary vacation.
I allowed him to go because he wanted to go there, spend his spring break and go some sightseeing. That was his intention.
Some of the things that Ahmed photographed in Washington were indeed tourist landmarks, like the Capitol building and the Masonic Temple. Others, however, were a little more marginal, like the Pentagon and the World Bank. But an oil storage depot Haris Ahmed was a US citizen and therefore could move freely across the entire country, an invaluable asset to anyone wanting to strike at America's iconic landmarks. His videos may have been crude, but they served Ahmed's purpose, proof that he was a willing and able recruit.
Man, seriously, be careful. Just take pictures, man. Turn.
When they go to Washington and do the videos, what was the point of that?
They were trying to legitimize themselves, and they are trying to show that, hey, not only are we players, but we can move freely within the U.S. We can conduct pre-operational surveillance. We are the real thing.
It was like a calling card.
Absolutely.
Copies of the videos were then emailed to Abid Khan in Bradford. Khan agreed to meet Ahmed in Pakistan to help him get into a training camp. All looked like it was going to plan. 3 months later, the two young men rendezvoused in Pakistan. And when you found out that one of the things he had done in Pakistan was he tried to get into a jihadi training camp, what was your reaction then?
I was surprised and I was shocked that not realizing that his quest for knowledge, for Islamic studies, would lead him to that extent.
Haris Ahmed was on the brink of fulfilling his dream, but at the last minute, it all fell apart. Does he get into the camp?
He does not.
Why not?
We understand that Khan looked at him as a liability, that he came dressed in combat gear and was really kind of loud, not a low-key individual, and that he thought he'd bring scrutiny from either Pakistani or U.S. law enforcement on him.
He was a potential liability.
He was a potential liability.
Frustrated, Ahmed was on his way back to the US, but now others in the online network had got much closer to unleashing mass slaughter. Mirsad Bektasevich was just 18 years old. His dream was to open and run his own Al-Qaeda franchise. Bektasevich was forming a small terrorist cell in his hometown, Sarajevo. Just like Haris Ahmed in America, he was looking for a way to turn internet fantasies into bloody reality.
This is one of the big limiting factors. You're talking about guys that are 17, 18, 19 years old. Sure, they can express a willingness to blow themselves up, and sure, they can talk about Al-Qaeda, and sure, they can access Al-Qaeda media, but where are the bombs? Where are the explosives? Otherwise, this is all tough talk. But Bektasevich was different. Bektasevich had a means to get explosives.
One of the things that makes the Sarajevo cell different from most of the other Al-Qaeda-related cells is that it didn't have to rely on homemade explosives. And that was because all around here, in the woods and the mountains, there were plenty of ready-made explosives that had been left over as a result of the war.
Try to see if we can have more money, because I have, dear brother, praise to God, found some really good things,
These good things were guns and explosives sold to him by a man who worked in this halal chicken restaurant. Bektasevich was almost ready to act. But first he wanted to let the world know that he meant business. He trekked miles into the hills outside the city to a remote cottage where he narrated this chilling video.
Allahu Akbar. Here the brothers are preparing for the attacks.
Just 18 years old, but in possession of an incredible arsenal of guns and explosives.
This weapon is going to be used against Europe, against those who have their forces in Iraq and in Afghanistan.